Hey guys, I'm Jax, and I just saw the new action film, The Beekeeper. Jason Statham stars as the titular beekeeper in the film The Beekeeper, in which he plays a man who is an actual, literal beekeeper, a man who loves to keep bees for his profession and for his passion. But he happens to work for a secret shadow organization. You know, the ones like the IMF. It's one of those vague shadow secret organizations that's in every single film ever, where the CIA and the FBI and everybody's like, oh my god, that's above my pay grade. And like even the top boss is like, oh, that's above my pay grade. It's like that thing, but this time they're called the Beekeepers. Because of course they are. And I know what you're thinking. Wow, with an insane, silly, ridiculous, hilarious, and potentially amazing premise like that, how many bee puns are there in this film? And let me tell you, so many. Like, I'm surprised by how many. So many bee puns, in fact, that I felt it was my, duty. I felt like it was my duty as a reviewer to open this review with a bee pun. But as I got home from the movies, I was sitting there and I was trying to like draft up the perfect bee pun. One where at first when you hear it, you kind of like, you cringe a little and you kind of groan. You're like, ugh, that was terrible. But then like, as it kind of like marinates in the back of your brain, you realize actually that was quite clever. That was quite an interesting and clever wordplay pun on the bee animal. And maybe the letter, maybe it's a combined situation. So I was trying to craft the perfect bee-related pun. I couldn't do it. I don't know if I put too much pressure on myself, where I was like, I was trying to find the perfect balance of cringe and actually kind of funny, but not like laugh out loud funny, because it is like a bee pun. And honestly, this probably hurts me more than it hurts you. You're probably more relieved, if anything. I do not have a fantastic bee pun to open my cold open of this review with. If I'm being perfectly honest, I'm not sure I even want to do the review anymore because I'm so tired from trying to make the perfect bee pun. And I failed. And so I feel like I failed you, but more importantly, I failed myself. And so I don't know what to do now. I guess, oh God, I don't know. I guess we just do the review anyway. This film is the perfect big dumb action film that you want. If you love Jason Statham and you love action and you just love a big, silly, ridiculous plot and there's some kind of conspiracy going on and there's a bunch of really unlikable villains. In this case, we have a bunch of scammers, a bunch of fraudsters, a bunch of tech bros who are just the worst, slimy, disgusting people who manipulate and steal and scam from the vulnerable and the old. And immediately in the first 5 minutes of these villains rocking up, you're immediately like, oh, I hope all of these men die horrible, horrible deaths. I hope Jason Statham punches each and every one of them in the face. And guess what? He does! He punches so many people in the face. It's really, really satisfying. It's a really simple and effective film. It does everything it needs to do. The villains are set up really well, really cleanly, really straight away. Like when Josh Hutcherson, Mr. Hunger Games Peter from Hunger Games rocks up, he is just like within 5 seconds of him floating around in his big high office on a skateboard and just interacting with everybody that you can tell is like, he thinks is below him as they serve him coffee and sushi and all this. You get this perfect sense of who he is. Done. 45 seconds, I know everything I need to know about this guy. Jason Statham is an underrated, versatile actor. He can do so much. It is just spectacular. And it's kind of always surprising. I don't know why I'm always surprised, because he's always so good. But in this film, he is just Terminator. It's just Jason Statham, pure Terminator, with, you know, a significant amount of bee-related puns. I, in fact, would love to get the ratio of dialogue that isn't a bee pun and dialogue that is. Because I would have to say 75% pun, 25% not pun. Because it's mostly like, what are you doing here, Jason Statham? And he's like, I'm a beekeeper. I'm here to protect the hive. He rides such a brilliant balance in this film of playing it deadly serious. And at times it's quite emotional because he loved this older lady, not sexually, maybe sexually. We don't get enough of them to know if it was sexual. It definitely wasn't, but maybe it was. But they had a deep mutual respect and friendship, and him as a retired beekeeper / current beekeeper man, he loves giving her honey. She loves receiving his honey. Once again, and I know when I say that, it sounds very sexual, because honey is one of the most sexual spreads you can put on your toast, but it is not sexual. Well, it could. The more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm thinking maybe the subtext was, in fact, that it was sexual. And so there's a surprising amount of emotional moments in this film that resonate really, really well because of Jason Statham's emotional connection and friendship and potential sexual relations with this old lady before she gets scammed and shoots herself in the head. All of that stuff works really well and is quite self-serious, and Jason Statham plays so much of the action as this like Terminator brute one-man army. He plays it all so deadly serious that every time he speaks and it's a bee or hive related pun, it's just it just rides that line so well. It's so close to being completely ridiculous and way too self-serious. But the film itself and David Ayer, the director, knows what type of film they're making. And there's just this tiny little glint in Jason Statham's eye where he is aware of the farcical, ridiculous nature of this film. But because it's played in such a serious way, I don't know, I just thought the balance was done expertly. I was entertained throughout it. There's not a moment of the film where I was bored. The action is spectacular. The rest of the cast are really fun. We have two detectives that are kind of chasing him, and both of them are amazing. One of them has an emotional connection to the old lady, and I promise you, this time it is definitely not sexual because it is her mother, and she is fantastic in this movie. All the cops, they're like not laugh out loud funny, but they have a really good kind of realistic, natural kind of repertoire where they feel like actual people. This film is just a vehicle for Jason Statham to do some awesome 1 against 10 action set pieces. The action is surprisingly grounded for the most part, mostly hand-to-hand, punchy punch situation stuff. There is a couple of very over-the-top, ridiculous kind of set pieces. Nothing in this film is going to be to the level of, say, John Wick, but it is Jason Statham doing them, and he creates kind of a different energy. It's not as kind of slick. It's more kind of brutish, and I think he just sells it. Like, he sells it in most of the films he's in, but in this one in particular, the way it was framed, the way it was shot, the way it was edited, it was all done really, really well. And it's weird because with David Ayer, it's like I expect it to either be done expertly or just like terribly, where I'm like, that was the worst action I've ever seen. David Ayer didn't ruin the film the way David Ayer ruins half of his movies because he's a great director, and then the next time he's like, actually, I'm going to make the worst film you've ever seen. And it's like, okay, stop. What? I don't understand how the guy who made Fury made Bright. You never know what you're going to get with that crazy man. And somehow with the film The Beekeeper, he's like, I'm going to make the good one. This film about a beekeeper who's secretly in a secret organization that's also called the Beekeepers. This is the time to make good action. I suppose it is, David Ayer. I suppose it is. The action is amazing. The puns are amazing. This film is amazing. And I will literally forget every single thing that happens in this movie by the time I finish watching the cricket tonight. It is just one of those perfect 3.5 star, B minus, maybe a B plus, dumb, big action movies. It's awesome. And if you don't like those type of things, you will hate this movie. But you probably didn't click on a review about the action film. It's called The Beekeeper. I don't know. Do you like Jason Statham? Go watch it. It's awesome. Alright, I've had 10 minutes as I do this review to think of a great bee-related pun. No, it's still not there. Be the one to subscribe.